I made this demo to show how different bits of technology can play nicely together to form a solution. So what I've done is I've created myself a model-driven app using Power Apps. And in this app, you've kind of got three main sections. You've got one for roles, so job roles, one for candidates, and one for applications. So this would give somebody the ability to load a job role on and say what department's it for, who does it report to, role requirements, skill and experience level. This will become important later because I've built AI into this where you can compare applications that people have made with job roles. So that's roles. And then we've got candidates and under candidates. I've only got one at the moment, and all there is in there is candidate name, candidate CV. As part of the AI that I've built in here to do that comparison, it's going to go through and it's going to extract key skills from my CV or the candidate's CV, those from the role, and compare the two. But in order to do that, we need to have an application, which is the link. So looking at the system I've built, you can see at a glance whether or not a role's had any applications. And then if we click through to an application, we'll have a look at this one. Okay. Oh, I did an extra thing in here. So let's imagine that we've had an application come through. There's a bit of business logic in it. You see how I can see that this application has come in 3 hours ago. I would also be able to see the time that an application has spent at various different steps in the recruitment process. So this person's come in and I haven't yet arranged the screening call. Let's do that now. Okay. What that's going to do, there we go, is it's going to guide us through this process. Now, the whole process has been running for 3 hours, but this interview piece of this process has only been running for 1 minute. Now, let's say we will say a reference check has been required. So I could arrange an interview with this person, but I just want to show you how this timeline changes. So I'm going to say a reference check is required, yes, and that's going to put an extra step up here, which is to do with collecting the details. All right, so that's kind of how this system works. Oh, other than, because it's a model-driven app, it's got AI kind of built into it, Copilot. So I could ask questions of Copilot about anything that's in this system. Pretty easy to set up that. This is the core bit though. So this role for a solution architect is going to compare the job description in there with the person who applied for the job, which is me. Now I could have that done automatically, but I've done that so that it works via a button, just so that you can see what's happening here. So if I click to run this flow and run, normally only takes a couple of seconds to run. I'll just refresh that and we'll see if it's done this matching. What I'm expecting is a match score, which is between 0 and 100, how closely this candidate meets that role, the skills that were extracted from both where they matched, the skills that were extracted from both the job and the CV where they partially matched. I've also done it so that they show where they don't match, and we'll get a summary of the whole thing. Right, let's refresh and see if that's worked. There we go. So it's run successfully. And it's matched all the skills that this candidate has got that were in the job description, those where there was a partial match, and it's given us a bit of a description. Now, this is a little bit rigged because I'm using my CV and I know that my CV closely matches that job. I'll show you an example where it didn't match and I'll explain why. So on this one, I still use my CV, which is all about technology. And key point here, it doesn't contain whether I've got a driving license or not. And I created a job that was for a driving instructor that has all sorts of driving instructor type requirements about it. So then I run that comparison, and if we look in the description that comes back, it says, yeah, they've got a lot of information in IT, but they lack driving qualification. They lack this specific skill you need as a driving instructor. Whilst they might be good with Power Automate and Microsoft, they do not meet the competencies for a driving instructor position. Now, where that's handy, if you're a person that's managing a load of roles, let's imagine that I'm looking at my active roles, so the ones that I manage, and I click this drop down, and instead of it being 1, it was 100. What I could do there is I could have a look at this AI-generated suitability score, which would rank those that are most suitable in order. So I'm still going to read all the applications, but I'm going to read the ones that have the closest match first. That's where you get the time savings. I'll show you how that little bit of automation works in a second, but just to say, look, this is a really rough app that I've knocked up, but I can modify any element of this. In fact, let's do that. So on the candidates screen here, we'll see we are only collecting name and CV. If I wanted to collect something else, I would just go into the table, the database table. I would click on the form that's being used, have a look at it and work out what I needed. Then I'll put in an extra column that contains whatever it is that I want to collect. Let's collect driving license. Spell that correctly. Use the, let's say that would be just a choice and that'll just be a yes or no. I'll click save. So that's updated the database. So the database has got somewhere to store that information. And then I need to update the form where that information is input. And to do that now, I can just add, let's add it in here. Whether they've got a driving license. There you go. Save and publish, go back, publish the whole thing. And that's it. My application is up to date and it's got that new field. So fully configurable, records the period of time a candidate was at each step, and it's got AI baked into it. Because this is a semi-technical demo, I'll show you how that AI matching works. So let's have a look at the flow that I'm using to do that. How that works is that when I click on this application here and I click to run that flow, this record is passed across to Power Automate that then goes, right, I know the record that you're talking about, thank you, Martin. I then compose this system prompt. This is my guideline to the AI as to what I want to do with the information I give it later. And I'm saying you are an unbiased recruitment analyst agent. Your task is to compare a job role and a CV. And I put in some conditions here to say you are to strictly avoid considering or inferring any protected capabilities. So things like age, gender, ethnicity, sex, disability, all these characteristics that you really can't consider. I've told it not to. I've told it only to evaluate skills and seniority indicators. But I've also, this is important, told it to use fuzzy matching when it looks for skills. So if a candidate, for example, in their CV said they used JavaScript, and on the job description it said we need JavaScript, that would be a match unless when the candidate put JavaScript in, they used 2 words. In that scenario, it would not match up. It's not the same word. Remember, all of the words when you send it through to AI are tokenized and converted into a numerical value. So those 2 things would be different, except I've said use a fuzzy match. And that's how you make sure it picks up all those differences between JavaScript, JavaScript, JavaScript with a capital J, JavaScript with, you see where I'm going here. Then I've said provide me a structured output which will show match skills, partial skills, missing skills, give it a score, an experience score, a seniority score, an overall score, and a description. So a lot of information there is being done, but I need to feed it with some information. And in order to do that, I then say, on this application, there was a related role and a related candidate. Go away, get the related role, get the related candidate, then pull that into a prompt. So I'm going to then send that overall description as to what I wanted the AI to do, as well as this prompt. It is going to go away, do the comparison, come back, and then I'm going to update the role in my ATS. So look, there's a lot there, but it didn't take me long to set up all of that. In fact, I'd done the whole thing, I think it was start to finish, in just 2 days. So because I'm using the scaffolding of Power Apps, and I'm using the scaffolding that is available with Power Automate and Claude, setting these things up is relatively simple to do. Making changes to them once you've created them is relatively simple to do. Because all of this time information, which is vital to a business, is stored in Dataverse, I would easily be able to connect up, say, Power BI, so that I could have a report of all my jobs, all my applications, but critically, where each application was and the stage, but how long it was taking for an application to move through these various stages. And that's powerful stuff. That'll give me a guide to say, well, where are the blockers? Why is this period taking so long? Interview. Why is that taking so long? That's because there's a lot of back and forth trying to arrange the interview. That would then make me go, okay, what can we do about that? I speak to the people that are arranging the interviews and say, are you using Microsoft Bookings? And if they say no, I say, well, let's do that then. That will then cut that period of time down. And overall, this will speed up that recruitment process. Now let's take this bit here where we've got this match summary. And on this one, I think it was saying that I missed out on having a driving license, and I didn't have this driving license qualification. Now, if I wanted to provide feedback to all of the candidates that applied for this job, yeah, I could just do the default that says you did or didn't get it. But what if I use that as the basis for providing candidates with really good feedback? I'd have to check that, but I wouldn't have to write it, which would speed up the process for the person that was reviewing these applications and improve the experience for the person that had applied for the job. That's the beauty of this kit, is the ability to use all of it in a combined way to get good results for the business, for the candidates. And that's where I come in. And that's where you could come in too, because it really doesn't take that long to learn this sort of stuff. You just need a developer environment. Just type in Power Apps developer environment. And then you would have all of this kit available to learn with in a safe space. Good luck with it.